Everyone, welcome back to another video. So, most players really only know 2 techniques in a goal, where there's actually 6 essential techniques that you should master. So today, I'm going to break down all of them step by step so you're ready for your next game. Let's go. Alright, so before we get into the different shots, there's one thing you have to get right first, because honestly, none of these work without it. And I'm talking about your foundation. Every single shot you take from comes from the same base: your planting foot, your striking ankle. So you want to make sure that your planting foot is always pointing towards where you want the ball to go. If it's open or off to the side, the ball is going to go and follow your foot, not your target. And for your striking ankle, you want to make sure that your ankle is locked, which means that you're basically keeping it stiff. Because if it's loose, you lose a lot of control and your power at the same time. One more thing before the shots. The biggest mistake I see in beginners is trying to hit the ball too hard. Remember, you don't need to squeeze every ounce of power out of your leg. Clear technique gets further than raw force. So keep that in mind as we go through each shot. Alright, let's get into the first one. And first up is the power shot. To perform this shot, you want to strike in the middle of the ball with your laces, and you really want to make sure you follow through the ball, because this is what's going to get the power. And the most common mistake I see is not doing the follow through actually, or even your planting foot pointing outwards. And this is really important, since your planting foot is basically guiding the ball and telling it where to go. So you want to make sure it's facing the net and the area where you want to shoot, and you really want to follow through to get that speed and power. Alright, so next up is the curling finish. And unlike the power shot, you don't want to use your laces for this one. You want to make sure that you're using sort of on the inside of your foot, around close to your big toe. And as you're approaching the ball, to get the motion of a curling finish, you want to make sure that you start from the outside of the ball and then wrap your foot around the ball and end up on the inside of the ball. And that's what really is going to help you get that bend around defenders and the goalkeeper. So the most common mistake I see players do with this technique is trying to smash the ball as hard as they can to get the most power. But when you do that, you're basically sacrificing the curl around the ball. So you just make sure that you focus on the technique as you're striking, and then power will follow naturally. Where to use this technique? You're either going to use it during free kicks, or when you're angle on the ball. Let's say you want to use your strong foot, but you're a bit angled toward away from the goal. You're just going to use it to get that curl around the far corner. Next up is the volley, and this one is really difficult skill to master, since you need to strike the ball mid-air. But you want to strike it like in the power shot. You want to strike it in the middle of the ball, and you want to follow through using your laces. And it's really important to hit the ball while the ball is going down and not up, because the most common mistake is when players hit the ball under, and this is going to make the ball go really high up. But if you hit it while it's going down and you hit straight that center of the ball, it's really going to drive through. Use this when you're receiving it on a cross. The ball is high in the air. Alright, the next technique is the chip shot. This shot is really important for when a keeper is rushing at you and you need to get it over him. So to get this technique right, you want to make sure that you're using around the top of your foot, close to your toes. And what you're going to do with that, you're going to use this area of your foot and jab under the ball. This is going to get lift over the ball quickly, so you can easily put it over the keeper. The mistake I see often with this technique is first trying to chip the ball way too hard with way too much power, and the ball ends up going way too far high over the net. So just make sure you do a soft chip, and the motion should be enough to get it over the keeper but stay in the net. And where to use it, like I said before, with one-on-ones on the keeper is the best situation. Alright, now it's the toe poke, and this one is really useful if you're in a tight situation and the goalie or the keeper is coming out to get the ball. So once you have the ball, let's say the keeper is coming, you simply just want to use this part of the toe to just poke the ball in the net. And this is really useful if you're on a breakaway, or if you just want to simply just get around the keeper. The most common mistake is not focusing on accuracy, because this is really, you're only using this if you really want a precise shot, like on the corner of the nets. So you don't really want that much power, you more want precision. And again, make sure your planting foot is facing where you want the ball to end up. Alright, so this next technique is probably the most impressive out of all of them, but also the hardest to master, and that's the trivela, or the outside foot curve. This technique is pretty important because it catches a lot of people off guard because of how impressive it is. So what you're going to do, you use the outside of your foot, and then you're going to wrap your foot like a curve, but the opposite. So you're going to start on the outside of the ball and then start making your way on the inside, and sort of like a brush motion. That's going to get a lot of curve on the ball and be able to curve it past the goalie. What you want to do when you're doing this, I would suggest doing it on your strong foot side. So So for me, my preference is the right side because that really allows me to bend it around the keeper. So if you're left-footed, I would recommend doing it on the left side. The most common mistake I see with this technique is players trying to do this with the most power possible without really practicing the technique. So always make sure you practice the technique, even if you're like 5 yards away from goal. Practice the technique, and then you can make your way back up and start integrating more power in. Trivela is also an amazing technique for passes and crosses as well. I hope this video was helpful for you all. If it was, please make sure to like and subscribe and comment what we should do next. I'll see you all in the next one.